All right, we have to do it. Let's go. Series preview between the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars. Now, before we get everything underway, before we dive into the numbers, the stats, and everything in between, I wanted to just kind of reaffirm what I said in yesterday's post-game Vancouver versus Edmonton video. Because I did say that I wouldn't necessarily be rooting for the Oilers, maybe that Boston Pizza commercial kind of got to me where it's like, oh, maybe we should all cheer with the fans we've always cheered against. Who really knows? But I will say, if Connor McDavid gets his chip this year, if the Edmonton Oilers find a way to make something happen, I wouldn't really be too upset about that, Not to say that I don't want Dallas to succeed either, like if it were up to me, either one of these teams winning the Stanley Cup would be fine. But for me personally, I'm not heading into this series with the absolute vitriolic hatred for the Oilers like many Canucks fans seem to have. So yeah, I don't want to be labeled as a biased whatever Canucks fan because, I am biased towards the Canucks, but bias towards my team does not mean unbiased against other teams, if that makes sense in a way. So heading into this series, I'm honestly okay with both teams. Heading into the 2024, Western Conference Finals between the home-seeded Dallas Stars and the lower-seeded Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton is coming in with an absolute fireball of offense. Leon Draisaitl has 24 points in 12 games. Connor Mack has 21 points in 12 games. Evan Bouchard, 20 points, 12 games. Nugent-Hopkins, 16 points in 12 games. Zach Hyman has 13 points in 12 games and 11 goals. Zach Hyman is a power play backdoor tap-in merchant, and it is working. Even Evander Kane has 7 points in 12 games. He's been touted as disappointing in this playoff run so far. Dallas, if you head over to their team, Miro Heiskanen leads the squad in points. He's the only point-per-game player that the Dallas Stars have, and for good reason. I mean, you could very well say that in their second-round series against the Avalanche, that Miro Heiskanen straight-up outplayed Cale Makar. You can say that for Evan Bouchard, you can say that he legitimately outplayed Quinn Hughes. Both of these top defenders in Bouchard and Heiskanen have just come off a series where they looked like the better top defensemen versus two of the best defensemen in the entire league in Makar and Hughes. So big momentum heading into this series for both of these defensemen, and when it comes to the rest of the Dallas Stars and their points, Jason Robertson had 12 points in 13 games so far. Wyatt Johnston, 11 points in 13 games, plus 7 goals too. Wyatt Johnston has been an absolute monster, just scoring the biggest goals at the biggest time. Short-handed power play does not matter when the going gets tough and they need him to step up. Wyatt Johnston is one of the best players in that respect. So, point production-wise, although the edge does belong to Edmonton, you could say that Dallas has their own good depth as well. And really, I mean, rounding out the rest of the lineup, the Stars have been a lot deeper than Edmonton, but Edmonton's top-tier talent is much better, which is like, I think the tale as old as time when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers. They have extremely high-end top talent, but the depth of the team pales in comparison to most of their opponents. So we'll see whether or not Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard are able to carry the Oilers in this series against Dallas, and it's really going to boil down to special teams, I feel, because the Oilers, they have a 37.5% power play in the playoffs so far. Dallas is at 29.0%. Very good power plays on both ends, but the Oilers' 37.5 is just superior. Then you go over to penalty kill, and you note that the Dallas Stars' penalty kill is 11th overall in the playoffs. They have a 69.2% metric on the penalty kill. Meanwhile, Edmonton's PK is first, 91.4. They have been so good, so aggressive on the PK, they totally shut down Vancouver's power play there. So the fact is, the special teams battle has been won by the Oilers so far. Now, when it comes to 5v5 metrics, things might be a little bit different, but this will be a series, as the others, decided on special teams, because the Oilers have been vastly superior in both of those categories. Now, to help us out a little bit more about this entire thing, let's go over onto an article published on NHL.com. 2024 Stanley Cup Playoffs, Stars vs. Oilers Western Final Preview. Take a look at this. The season series went as follows. Dallas went 2-0-1 against the Oilers, and the Oil went 1-2-0 against Dallas. So Dallas technically does have the edge versus Edmonton in this season series. The last time these two teams played each other in the postseason was in the 2003 conference quarterfinals when Dallas defeated Edmonton in 6 games. Each had a tremendous second half to the regular season. The Oilers had 67 points and the Stars had 65. They were both the top 2 teams in the standings points-wise amongst Western teams after January 1st. The Stars are coming off a 2-tough series, defeating Vegas in 7 and Colorado in 6. They've been able to get some rest and practice time since eliminating the Avalanche last Friday, something that they have been welcoming. I'm not worried about rust, Pete DeBoer said. It's going to end up being 6 days maybe? With the 2 series we just went through, we could use the time. It's actually probably the perfect amount of time that we can use to recharge, get some guys healthy, and get reset for the next round. Rolling that first round into a second round with the 2 opponents we had was a really tough month of hockey. He also had Connor McDavid speaking out about the 5-game win against LA and then the 7-game series against Vancouver. It's the conference final. You're going to play a great team, and they certainly are. They're deep, as deep a team as you're going to find in the NHL. 4 lines, 6 D-men. They have a great goaltender. It's going to be a great test, and we are looking forward to it. Game breakers. They talk about Wyatt Johnston. They also talk about Miro Heiskanen. These two have been fantastic. Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Evan Bouchard. Yeah, these guys have all been game breakers for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, when it comes to goaltending, I wanted to use this article to read this because the goaltending matchup is going to be very peculiar here. Jake Oettinger is one of 3 goalies with 8 postseason wins, with Igor Shesterkin of the Rangers and Bobrovsky of the Panthers being the other 2. Oettinger has been up to the task once again with a .209 goals against average and a .918 save percentage. He saved his best for his last start, making 29 saves in a 2-1 double overtime win to eliminate the Avalanche. Those numbers are very, very good. Oettinger has been a beast in the postseason so far. Meanwhile, if you go over to Edmonton, they changed goalies for 2 games in the second round, but Stuart Skinner has gotten most of the starts, going 7-3 with a .287 goals against and an .881 save percentage. My goodness, Stuart Skinner's save percentage and numbers are not great. The Oilers have the inferior goaltending right here. He made 15 saves in a 3-2 win against Vancouver on Monday, the first Game 7 of his NHL career. Cal Pickard is 1-1 with a 2.21 goals against and a .915 save percentage in 3 games. So Pickard is technically the better statistical goalie, but, you know, the Oilers are going with Skinner because he's their guy. He got him here in the first place. He had the shutout against LA, and of course he won the series against Vancouver. Big wild card and entire decision-making process there for Chris Knobloch to go with Skinner in the final game. But either way, Jake Oettinger is superior. We'll see whether or not the goaltending does play a big role in this matchup. If the Oilers play Oilers hockey, though, we might not even care about goaltending by the time this matchup is done, because if every game is going to be 5-4, 6-5, maybe 5-2 or whatever, then the goaltending doesn't really matter at that point. It's just who can outscore the opposite team and whose offense can get clicking more. Numbers to know: the Dallas Stars have reached the conference finals for the 13th time in their history and 7th since relocating to Dallas in 1994. Their 13 appearances are second most amongst non-original 6 teams, behind the Philadelphia Flyers. With their second-round victory, Edmonton became the 9th team in NHL history to reach at least 40 series wins. Since the Oilers entered the league in 1980, those 40 wins are the most amongst all teams, and 3 more than the Pittsburgh Penguins and Detroit Red Wings over that span. So, yeah, the 80s Gretzky Oilers doing some pretty hard carrying over there. There are some X factors here talked about. Roope Hintz didn't play in games 5 or 6 against the Avalanche because of an upper body injury, and his availability will be crucial if the Stars hope to match the Oilers' star power in the conference final. You have Evander Kane here listed as the X factor for Edmonton. He could be a lot better, but of course, as we had said, he's still roughly just under a point per game there. 12 games played and 7 points. Go over to the article here. They said it. Matt Duchene talked about the break a little bit here. Evan Bouchard talked about how they're going to need everybody. Both of these teams will win if the Dallas Stars get balanced scoring and if the Oilers do more of what they did the past 2 games. They talked a lot Monday about how everyone contributed on both sides on the ice in Games 6 and 7 against the Canucks. That was especially true on the score sheet, where names other than McDavid and Draisaitl were present often. It was center Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, it was Bouchard, it was Holloway, and yes, it was even Cody Ceci. So these are going to be the projected lineups. I will say Dallas is deeper, but Edmonton has a lot more star power up top there. Hop, has a lot more star power up front. They have a lot more top-heavy assets here. Meanwhile, for Dallas, if Chris Tanev can pull off some of his magic, we made a video just a few days ago. If Tanev can shut down McDavid in the same way that he shut down McKinnon and Eichel, then this could be a really good series for Dallas, but we're just going to have to wait and see. If I had to toss out a prediction there, I'm honestly going to say maybe Edmonton in 7. I do think the Oilers' top power can overcome the Stars' depth, but that's just my random prediction out of nowhere. I'm going to say Oilers in 7, but this certainly will be a really tight series and a really good one to watch too. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Edmonton versus Dallas in the 2024 Stanley Cup Western Conference Finals? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.